want to know how to enable regular expressions and how to use them in Cherwell Service Management, this video is for you. I'm Scott Valor, Senior Solutions Architect and Consultant with Excalibur Data Systems, and let's get started. To enable regular expression editing within Cherwell Service Management, you have to add this registry key to each machine that you're going to edit with. So on your admin machines, any of your power users that you want to be able to go in and deal with modifiers and stuff that have regular expressions, you'll also need to add this registry key. Let's go look at the email and event monitor, see where we can use regular expressions within this. Let's go ahead and just make a new monitor. Once we have the registry key in the system that we're doing the editing from, we're going to get this regular expression box here for the ID, the existing record, all the standard fields. On conditions, I'll also get the same thing. And in this case, I'll just give you an example. We use the from address. I had a customer who had 600 plus satellite sites, and at every site, they had a UPS unit, and it would email back to Cherwell whenever it had an event like the batteries needs to be replaced, power outage, stuff like that. And the email address for every one of these started with UPS, and it was all uppercase. So in this case, we did it like this. And then it had the serial number after it. So the period just represents any character, and then the plus means one or more of them. And then from the company address, and so that is the regular expression that matched the UPS units. So it's UPS plus the serial number and the domain. Now with Cherwell, it's really important that I wrap that search string in parentheses so that I create a search group. If you don't, it will fail. So in this case, I'm going to find all of the incoming email. It's going to make sure that the from address matches the UPS, and then I can go ahead and run my action. The next place that you're going to be able to utilize regular expressions is going to be in the lock string manager. We're going to have to create a new blueprint to get to that, and it's going to be up here on the managers. You're going to see lock strings. Let's go edit the existing list, and you just add one in. Now, out of the box, if you don't have the registry key put in, this regular expression option will be here still. This is the only place in the system where they're exposed without having put in the registry key. In this case, you don't even have to make a search group. You could just say, you can put in your pattern. So let's say I just want to do service catalog or service, can't even spell today, catalogs. Once I've added that key in, then the lock string manager will look for any entry that's either service catalog or service catalogs, and it will lock it. All right. Everything else, though, still requires the registry key to be there. So the next thing I'm going to show you is validation. And I'll show you, let's see, I made a specific example here. So we'll go do an IP address. And I've got a form on this so that we can input an IP address and validate it. So I'm doing a custom validation using an expression to check the pattern, and then I have a custom error coming out of it, just letting them know they have to put a valid IP address in. So let's go look at that expression. This expression is going to use the value that's currently in the IP address field, and it's going to compare it against my search string, which returns the value that it finds. And if the two things match, then I have the correct pattern, and so my validation succeeds. Otherwise, it will fail and it'll give us the error. So let's go see what that rule looks like. So I'm comparing the IP address to this custom expression. And the way that works is it's a text expression. I put the IP address field here, and I applied a modifier. So in this case, I'm using the standard regular expression, which is a search, and I'm comparing it against this string, and this string is really big. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. Right now, for this one, I'm telling it that I want to match the entire field. So I have a regular expression that looks for the first octet is it, 255, etc. So there is the first octet, and then here's the second octet rule, etc. I've wrapped the entire octet with a search group set of parentheses, because if I don't, what's going to happen is it'll search right up here to the slash period, and it'll only return the first octet. So you have to put it in a search group. The other thing that I've done is I've done the slash A, which is the beginning of the entire set of text, and slash Z, which is the end. So if it's a multi-line field, A means start at the very first character, and the zeta, means end at the very last character of the entire multi-line field. So I want to make sure that whatever they've typed into the entire field is an exact match. So I'm using this one. If I was just looking for something on just a single line, I'd use the caret here and the $sign. And if I was just looking for the IP address somewhere within the paragraph or just by itself, basically a word boundary, then I would just use the word boundary wrapper, the /bravo, so I could use it that way. For this example, though, I want it to match the entire field, so I'm using the /alpha and the /zeta. So that's my search string, and in this case, if the field matches the search string, it's going to just return the field. If not, it's going to come back blank. So let's go see these modifiers and validation in action. I've created a sample service request here, and I've put some text within the description. I've highlighted the text that's going to possibly match our patterns so that you can see where and when the patterns matching is in effect, as well as I've created that specific over here, and I've put in an IP address. The IP address right now is valid, but as soon as I put in an invalid character, it lets me know that I have to enter a valid IP address. Now let's go see how I can use the search strings across this text. So I have a one-step that's going to do a couple different variations on this. First of all, I'm comparing everything in this one step is comparing against the description block. So the first case, I'm looking for anything where it matches this regular expression, and that is going to find this first valor. So I've got my search group with the parentheses, and then uppercase or lowercase v, a, l, and then one or more l's, and then e or o, and then ends in r. So it's going to find that valor. So in this first one, it's finding it even though there's an r after it, because it's finding this pattern. The next one, the only thing I changed is I added the word boundaries on it. And so it skips this one because it doesn't match, because it has to go from word boundary to word boundary. And this has an extra R in it. So it's going to wrap around until it finds valor, which is what it did here. The next one is basically using the index, the regular expression index. And so where is the first valor that hits the word boundary? And that's right here. So the first character is in position 63. And the next one, I'm using the search and replace feature. So I'm using the word boundary here for valor. And I replaced everywhere that it matched, I replaced it with X's. So here and here and down here. And this is just the description popped in. So I'm not saving it back, I'm just popping it in the pop-up so you can see the change. Now you'll notice this one didn't match because I'm using the word boundary, so it left it alone. And this one didn't match because I said specifically I'm looking for the variation of valor where it's misspelled. So an example of using search and replace. Now, you'll notice earlier when I was doing the search, it only returned the first of the search group that it found, the first entry. And when I did the index, it only returned the index of the first entry it found. Now search and replace is going to replace all entries. The next one again is where do I find the location or the index of the first entry that matches this pattern? And in this case, I use the caret and the $sign. This entry down here is the only entry that matches, where it's the only text on the line. And in that case, that's in position 274. And then here's my IP address rule. And in this case, I've used the word boundary. So find me an IP address, the first IP address, somewhere in that description text, and return the value, because I'm just doing the regular expression, which is a search. So here's what it returns. All I'm doing is throwing the incident description here in a pop-up with some modifiers on it. So that first one where I said, find me the first instance where there's some variation of valor. I don't care if it's anywhere in a word or anywhere, just return it. Well, that's here. So I'm just using the regular expression search with my expression. The next one where I said it has to be within the word boundary, again, it's the same thing. I'm just using the regular expression modifier with the word boundary around my pattern. And it's just going to return just that one. When I do the index, I'm going to just throw a modifier on the description, but it's going to be the indexing rule. And so I said again, find me valor where it's got the word boundary on it, and it's the standalone word, not part of a word, and get me the first position of that text. The replace, again, is just a modifier, and we're using the replace. And so here's the pattern to look for, and then here is what to replace it with. Now, again, replace is really interesting because I could replace any of those with any field value, anything from a relationship. I could replace them with a variable, an expression. I could even prompt for what I want to replace it with. Stored values, metrics, you name it. And then the last one where I was just saying, hey, find it as the only thing on the line. And I wanted to find the position. Again, I just use indexing in that. All right. And the IP address one is just doing the regular expression search. And I was using the word boundary. So that is how you enable regular expressions in CSM, where you can use them, and how you can use them. I hope you found that useful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask. We'd be happy to help you. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.